Okay, we are here for the BABOK certification course. I need you to make me the host again, please. You are the host now. Look at you doing it while I'm talking. Okay. So, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, very good. So today we're going to work on the BABOK certification prep course. We are hoping to get everybody ready and at least take the test by November. And we've got folks in Ireland for the Ireland chapter. We've got folks in the Philippines. Okay, let me try that again. We have folks all over the world that are planning on taking the certification course in November or before. So we're going to work on getting you ready. So let me tell you a little bit about what we're doing. My name is Thea Soren. I'm the now president of the Tampa Bay, Florida chapter and the vice president of career and professional development for the chapter. And I'm leading these chapters worldwide for their study courses. We're going to be talking about the BABOK certification. That's the ECBA, the CCBA, and the CBAP. So it doesn't matter how much experience you have, this certification course will be beneficial for you. How many of you, give me a raise of hands if you have a BABOK? Show me your hands. You can either do it on screen or, okay, I see. Okay, good, good. Okay, one more time. How many of you have studied for chapter 3 questions? No? Somewhat? Okay, okay. That's cool. Cool. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk a little bit about the structure of the BABOK. This is our tentative schedule. We might be able to move it up a little bit if we go through chapter 3 today. If we don't do really well on the test questions today, we'll go through chapter 3 again next week. I'm sorry, in 2 weeks. So the first question is, do you learn the BABOK or do you apply for the test first? Applying for the test means once you get it approved, you have a whole year to take the test. However, the application for the CCBA and the CBAP, which is the 3 years of experience or the 5 or more years of experience, means that you have to have 3,750 hours of experience or 7,500 hours of experience in specific knowledge areas. So this means that you not only need to know the knowledge areas, you've got to be able to apply your experience in the application for the test. So we want to learn the BABOK first. So let's talk about the BABOK. The business analysis body of knowledge. I've heard so many people say the book of knowledge. It's the body of knowledge, which is just fine. People make mistakes. I've said it myself. Is organized in this way. You've got your chapter 1 and chapter 2, introduction and key concepts, which are the foundations. If you don't know that information, the rest of it's going to confuse you. And I've seen questions in the other knowledge areas sections on those two chapters. So please read through this. And I'm going to tell you a few things that are critical for you to understand. So you've got chapters 3 through 8, which are your knowledge areas. Chapter 3 is knowledge area 1. It's kind of staggered there. So there's 6 knowledge areas. Then chapter 9 is underlying competencies. Chapter 10 is 50 techniques. 50 techniques that are basic foundational techniques. We want everyone to understand what they are. You don't have to use them all. And then chapter 11 is perspectives, talking about are you working agile, waterfall, business architecture, process management? It's a very different perspective from each of those. So you need to kind of understand what this project is so you can kind of understand how to approach it. And then the appendices, which includes the glossary. I wrote with a team of 3 or 4 other people, chapters 10, 11, and the glossary. So, but it was 10 years ago. Now let me talk about what happened 10 years ago. It was pre-COVID. We weren't working virtually. Most of us were not working in heavy software like we might be now. This book was written for an international audience. You'll see British spellings all over it, which is great for us in America because we look at that and go, is that the way to spell that word? You'll see very generic, general concepts. It's not super specific because it doesn't want to tell you do A, B, and C. It wants to say, this is your goal and this is kind of how you need to do it and some other information. So understand the BABOK is a little older. You have to understand what's in the BABOK to be able to pass the test though. So let's talk about just the knowledge areas, chapters 3 through 8. Knowledge areas, there's 6 of them. You're going to see these definitions later, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time here. But if you could turn these into acronyms in your own mind, it'll make it a whole lot easier for you. So BAPM for Business Analysis, Planning, and Monitoring, if you can just do that, it gives yourself a shorthand. Okay, so let's just talk about the first knowledge area, Business Analysis, Planning, and Monitoring, BAPM. It is broken down. Every knowledge area has these elements. It has tasks, inputs, outputs, guidelines, tools, and stakeholders. This is the structure of every single knowledge area. Now, whenever you look at the tasks, these are the tasks, and you'll notice this is chapter 3, first task, chapter 3, second task. Each task is broken down like this. And then within the task, it also has the purpose, definition, inputs, elements, guidelines, and tools, techniques, stakeholders, and outputs. So every single one of these is going to have each one of these. Whenever I first started learning the BABOK, I did not understand this. And so when we started doing test questions and it would say, what is the input for this? Or what is the technique for this? I was a little lost. So I needed to understand techniques are for tasks. And then you go up here, you don't have techniques in the knowledge areas. So we'll get a little bit deeper into this. So I want to go to the BABOK itself and just point out a few things. I want to be sure you understand
Sorry,
this.
Thea, to interrupt you.
Yes,
Since you are host, can you check if anyone is in the lobby waiting for the admitting?
Let's see. How do I do this?
If you go to the participants, you can see.
Participants. I see waiting room. Yes, let me let them in. And I apologize. I wasn't paying
That's
attention
all
to
right.
that.
That's all. I don't know why it isn't giving me the option to make you co-host. Maybe I'll add you in the meeting series,
Okay.
then maybe we both are host.
Okay, very good. The Tampa Bay chapter actually had to use a different Zoom than the IIBAs because we were having the same type of problem. Okay, we've got, and more people are joining. Okay, so people are joining. Good thing we have this recorded. I'm going to keep moving forward, and I'm so glad you guys joined. Okay, so we're going to look at the BABOK itself. There's just a few things I want to be sure you know, and I'm going to page down here. Page down this way. This is my copy. These are my things that I have to study. This is one thing I want to be sure you do know. The knowledge areas are not sequential. Whenever you're looking at these knowledge areas, in the BABOK, they're sequential, right? They're in order.
Yep.
That's not the way we do it in the real world, and the BABOK does not say to do it in this order. But you need to understand that they kind of build on each other, and logically, it makes sense that you do the knowledge area 1 first. But after that, you're kind of going back and forth between all the knowledge areas. So I want to be sure you understand that. And then let me scroll down just a little bit more. This is a graphic. This is not my favorite graphic of the different knowledge areas. And the reason it's not my favorite graphic is because it doesn't make any sense to me other than to say, you've got to go back and forth between all of them. They're all connected. Cool, I understand that. I would almost rather have a circle with lines in between than this, but that's all that this graph means. Whenever I first saw it, I was confused because I was trying to do a process flow. It doesn't work as a process flow. Okay, moving on. Tasks are grouped to the knowledge area. Business analysts perform tasks from all knowledge areas sequentially, iteratively, or simultaneously. So that means you can be doing something in knowledge area 1, knowledge area 3, and knowledge area 5 at the same time. And you may not have all the information you need to complete it. You just have enough information to start it. But that's why our job is a little harder than most people think. It's not like we're engineers that we create something, we build it, and it's done. We have to go back and forth constantly and then be sure everyone's on the same page. Okay. I made some notes in here. You might want to just take this down. Inputs, there is a qualifier of external in some of these inputs. The very first one I could find was 3.5.3, and it shows you where it says external on that input. And then whenever you look at, and we're going to look at this in a minute, and figure 3.1.1, we're going to talk about the graph that shows the inputs for the different sections. So I'll jump to that in just a minute. In the techniques, I told you we wrote 50 techniques. We did the best we could. They kept saying you got to be prescriptive and not descriptive, which means we tell you what to do. I mean, no, we tell you what your goal is, but we can't tell you step by step how to do it. Which for process charts and stuff, that's crazy. You need a process chart to do a process chart. Anyway, I digress. In the techniques, you are encouraged to figure out your own technique if that's what you need to do. Find the technique that works for you, and it may not be a technique that's in the BABOK, but understanding the techniques in the BABOK allows you to talk to another business analyst that understands the BABOK and say, I'm going to use this, which is similar to this technique in the BABOK. And the reason I'm using it is for this different reason, and it's going to be different than this technique that's in the BABOK in these ways. That way, you're both on the same page, and they're not going, I don't know what you're doing, right? Okay, so you can find your own. This is a very agile perspective. Okay, now we're going to jump down into chapter 3. So chapter 3, we have here's your tasks. Here is your core concepts model, but then let's jump down one more section. Now, once again, this is not my favorite thing. This is the chapter, knowledge area, inputs and outputs. So in my logical brain, it's not linear. I want one thing to go into one thing to come out with one. I mean, it's easy. This has a bunch of stuff that goes into a bunch of stuff and then comes out with a bunch of stuff. Makes no sense to my brain. However, if you go down over here to the first task, they have it set up properly, in my opinion. You've got your guidelines and tools. You need to understand what each of these are. Don't just read them. Understand what they are. Your input is your needs. Your needs can be just beginning. You can have a complete set of needs. Either one of those, you can start this. Then you do your task. Your output of this is this, your business analysis approach. And then here are all of the tasks that use your business analysis approach. So this is a very linear thing, and my brain understands. Do we have any questions? I will open up chat just to see.
No questions in the chat. I'm
Okay,
already.
no questions. Okay, very good. Okay, then let's see, what else do I want to be sure you understand? I think with chapter 3, since some of y'all said you kind of studied, we're going to go ahead and jump into the test questions. Now, you've had the opportunity to have the 4 hours of practice test questions. Did anybody get to look at those 4 hours, or at least one of those 4 hours? Okay.
Recordings on YouTube. No worries. I'll share the link again over the email after today, so you can look at it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Before we start that, let me do one thing. Lalita is going to share also. This is the template for your application. So you've got your professional development. I made these blue because these are both drop downs. So you can choose the different elements that you're going to have, and then the information about that, and then which knowledge areas they feed into. If it feeds into chapters 1 and 2, or something similar to any of these, just pick whichever one it's closest to. You don't have to say, I only took training on one of these knowledge areas, because a lot of things that we take training on, like how to use AI as a business analyst, it doesn't quite fit into this, but it does help us. And so you can just claim it, okay? It fits into this one. If you use no resources to prepare, that's okay. You can say none. Nobody's going to bash you on this. Your goal is that you get your hours, the total number of hours that you need to apply for your certification. I always encourage you to get 5 to 15% more than they require, just in case they say, that one's not good enough. I've never seen them do that, but I've heard people talk about they're worried about it. So I want you to do that. Then your work history, your organization name, role, description. You don't have to do a whole lot here. You can do 3 sentences maybe. Start date, end date. Your contact information is important because if they do audit, they will contact these people and they need to know that they're going to be contacted. And then you drop your work hours into this. You could put in formulas in here to subtract your start date, end date, and then figure out how many total hours that is, give you a total here, and then drop, 30% into this one, 20% into this one. You do it the way you need to do it. You can group projects together. You can group jobs together. You can separate projects out. If you worked at one company for 5 years and you did 16 projects, if you want to make it that detailed, you can. They do not care how many exact hours, they want a round number. Okay, again, 5 to 15% more. And I'm going to tell you that as myself and most of the people I've talked to, we're too hard on ourselves. We say, well, I wasn't a business analyst. I was just kind of doing some of the stuff. You get credit for that stuff, even if you didn't have the title. Okay. James, if you haven't been tracking hours per knowledge area, yes, you just guess. Okay, so let's say I worked at a nuclear power plant. I worked there for a year and a half. I would say 10% of my time was me planning how to do my job. That's knowledge area 1. 10% of the total hours goes into knowledge area 1. I'm done with knowledge area 1. Then you figure out the rest. Okay? Okay. Everybody
Also,
good to listen? Go
I
ahead.
would like to add here on professional development, whatever learning you are doing on your own, you reading BABOK, understanding BABOK, that time also you can put in professional development.
I added the category self-study.
Yeah.
Because it's, you know what, we do a lot of self-study. How many of you go to LinkedIn and you learn from our great network worldwide? And people say, hey, I read this great article. And so you go read the article. Nobody is providing you a course, but you're learning, you get credit for that, and you guesstimate how much time you spent doing it. Okay. If you have links to those courses and stuff like that, I mean, like the article, the course, all that stuff, you can put that here in the organization website. You can say, here's the article that I read whenever I did a self-study thing. You don't have to. Just describe it, do the best you can. If you can start tracking things now, so that in, say, 4 months or 6 months, when we finish this course and you get ready to do your application, you have all that stuff tracked for the last 4 or 6 months, you're going to be ahead of the game and you're going to thank yourself, because trying to do it from your memory and going through your browser history, oh my goodness. I find things that it's like I wasted so much time looking at eBay or something, That's not what you need to be spending your time doing, okay? Okay, any questions about this template? Okay, very good. Let's see. Let's go on to the practice test questions. Okay, so these are practice test questions. I'm going to choose CBAP. I'm going to go ahead and log in. Watermark Learning has kindly provided this for us for our chapter use. If you personally want to do this on your own, you are free to do it. However, there is a fee for you to do it on your own. We're going to go through drills, and I'm going to choose Knowledge Area 1, Business Analysis, Planning, and Monitoring. Now, those of you who are on camera, thank you. If you can come on camera to have these conversations, it helps us a great deal. We're going to have a conversation about what is this question. I'm going to read the question. I'm going to read the 4 answers. I'm going to say which of these answers cannot be true. This word is not even in the BABOK that they're asking for. These techniques are the wrong thing. Whatever it is, which of these 4 answers is not true? And then of the 3 answers that are left, which of these is the right answer and why do you think it's the right answer? And I need several of you to speak up. Now, I'm not going to expect that any of us are going to be 100%. Having the conversation of why this is wrong or why this is right or where in the BABOK you think it might say something different is where we're going to learn from each other and where we're going to grow, okay? Nobody is going to be incriminated by saying something that's wrong. Okay, we're going to begin a new exam. Here's our first question. Let me make it even a little bit bigger. Why is it important for a BA to identify and understand stakeholders' attitudes toward the project? To categorize stakeholder in its power interest grid? To know if the stakeholder are for or against the initiative? To know how stakeholders will contribute to the initiative, or to understand how stakeholder needs and specifically plan how to collaborate and engage with the stakeholders. Now, are any of those not true? And whenever you tell me, you can either say like B for boy or D for dog, because B and D sound really similar over the speakers. If you could just tell me which one you think is wrong or which one you think is right.
I
think
think
last one is
I think D as dog is the right one.
Yeah,
And
same
the
here.
rest is wrong.
Okay,
I
why do
think
you
so
think it's
too.
the right one?
I think B for Bata is not so correct.
Okay, so you think that one's not right. We think this one is right. Why do we think this one is right?
I would think that we definitely need to understand our stakeholders' needs as business analysts and what's the specific plan that will speak to the scope and how they're going to collaborate. They can speak to communication plan and how I engage with them. Yeah.
I'm going to bet that this is a direct quote out of the BABOK and y'all recognize the voice of the BABOK. So let's check it. Let's see if we're right. Yes! 3.2.4.1. Additionally, understand a stakeholder's attitude helps the BA understand what may impact that stakeholder's actions. There is a thing called a force field diagram that whenever I saw power interest grid, it's like, no, they're talking about a force field diagram. And it's where you say, these are the stakeholders that are pro, these are the stakeholders that are con, and of those stakeholders that are con, can any of them hurt us? And what do we need to do to help them understand how to come over to the pro side? So it's not a power interest grid, it's a force field diagram. Okay, next question. Why is it important for a business analyst to understand roles and responsibilities of the stakeholder within the organization? To help with the development of the RACI matrix, to categorize stakeholders in the power interest grid, to understand how the stakeholder will contribute to the initiative, or to understand stakeholders' attitudes and manage them. And thank you, those of you who spoke up. I really appreciate it. So, any of these wrong or any of these right?
Okay. D for dog. Not right.
Think it's wrong?
Hmm.
Okay. We think that one's wrong. Okay, what do we think is right?
I think D for dog is right.
Yeah.
Oh, you think it's right?
Yeah,
Oh,
me
okay,
too.
okay.
I
Okay,
think
we've
the
got at
answer
least
is
2
D.
votes for this one. Let's check the answer. All right. So it says that to understand how the stakeholders will contribute to the initiative is the right answer, according to the BABOK. And here's our criteria. Understand the roles and responsibilities of stakeholders will help the BA understand how stakeholders will contribute to the initiative. This is stakeholders' attitudes.
I can't understand
again?
why the last item is wrong, because we somehow we want to manage the stakeholders as a business
I
analyst.
understand. We do want to manage the stakeholders. The roles and responsibilities of the stakeholders. So the roles and responsibilities is how they will contribute to the initiative. And we have roles and responsibilities up here too.
Yep, I think because because stakeholders is not only the end users and customers whom we are delivering the solutions, stakeholders are also domain subject expert, tester, developer. So if we know them, if we know their roles and responsibility, we will be better knowing that how they can contribute, in which part of the initiative they can contribute.
I agree. I agree. Okay, in the interest of time, I'm going to move on. Okay, you are conducting a thorough stakeholder analysis to analyze and understand their needs. Which of the following factors would you consider? You would perform stakeholder analysis, define stakeholder collaboration, stakeholder communication needs. You would perform a stakeholder analysis, define stakeholder collaboration and business needs. Perform stakeholder analysis, define stakeholder collaboration, define stakeholder authority level, or perform stakeholder analysis, define stakeholder governance, and stakeholder communication needs. Guys, is there such thing as stakeholder governance? Have you seen that anywhere in the BABOK? I'm pretty sure this is the answer that cannot be true.
No.
Okay, so
Cannot be true.
I'm sorry. Which one do you think is right?
A, I think.
B for Pata?
Do we agree on A?
I will go with B as
I'll
boy.
go with B.
I
B for
think
boy.
it's
Okay, we
C.
got A and B.
I think it's C.
Nice.
Okay. Okay,
Question
so
is
why
really
do we
great.
think, those of you who think it's B, why do you think it's business needs over stakeholder communication needs?
I
Because
think it's
of the
kind of definition of business analyst, business
Mhm.
need. So
Business needs and solution thinking.
Okay, well, let's check this answer and see which one is right. A was right, guys. Look at
Oh.
this. These are all stated elements within the planned stakeholder engagement task. Do you want to let's look it up?
It's taking
I have it right here. 3.2. Let's see, 3.1, 3.2.4.
0.4.
Here we go.
Stakeholder.
Let me make it a little bit bigger. And it's 0.4.
Mhm.
Wait a minute. Sorry, let me go back to the other one. 3.2.4.
I think it's the three different elements within that subsection.
3 different elements in that task.
What? There we go. Okay. Things we learn, right?
Mhm.
Okay, so we have the correct answer is you're conducting a thorough stakeholder analysis. Which of the
Mhm.
following factors perform stakeholder analysis, define stakeholder collaboration, and stakeholder communication needs?
Need.
When conducting a thorough stakeholder analysis, the following resources may be required to be successful. Which of the following is least likely resource to be used? So this is the one that we probably will not use. The current state description, business policies, business analysis, performance assessment, or change strategy.
C.
Yeah, I
B.
think it's C.
I think it's B.
Okay,
yeah, I'm 50-50 between B and C.
okay, well, let's talk about why it would be C or why it would be B. What do you think?
I don't see how the performance of a BA would impact when you're trying to analyze the different people that you need to collaborate with within an initiative.
That's a very good point. I can see how the change strategy for the organization, the business policies that impact the organization, the business rules, and the current state description would all probably impact your resources that you would want to use. So let's try this one. Dude,
Oh,
okay. Oh, this is not one of the stated guidelines. This is one of those that I told you, they throw something in there that's not in the BABOK. So you have to know what's actually in the BABOK. For the planned stakeholder engagement task. So in the real world, if you have not created a business analyst performance assessment before for that organization, and you're in this process, you wouldn't have the business analysis performance assessment to review, right? But if, as a business analyst, that I've worked 6 projects for this organization and this team, and I know that I have a weakness in my performance in this certain area, as I am conducting stakeholder analysis, if I know that I'm weak in a way that for instance, if I have trouble creating a process plan, or if I have trouble reading a Microsoft project, and I've got to talk to somebody that they think Microsoft project, that's going to be something that's going to impact the way that I talk to those stakeholders, right? I'm going to have to say, you know, this is not my strength. Would you walk me through it, instead of the other way around? So I understand why they said this is wrong. At the same time, it's one of those iffy questions that I don't fully agree with. But if it is not one of the stated guidelines in the plan stakeholder engagement task, of course it's not going to be there, right? Okay, we know now. Let's go on. Oh, do we have more waiting in the lobby? Let me see. No, we don't. Everybody's in. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Okay, the question, Gwen is monitoring and controlling the progress and performance of the business analysis work and planning improvement processes where required. Which of the following guidelines would be beneficial for Gwen in this case? Accuracy and completeness, organizational performance standards, business policies, or legal and regulatory information? Now, she is working on monitoring and controlling the performance of business analyst work and planning improvements. Are there any of these that don't apply?
I think organization performance standards don't apply here.
And business
Okay.
policies is
I would
not
say
on
C, business
C,
policies.
definitely. Business policies is not on BABOK.
Okay, so we have a vote for B and a vote for C. Can I get one more vote?
I think B is the correct answer.
B, the second choice, yeah.
Which of the following guidelines would be beneficial for Gwen in this case? So she's monitoring the progress and performance. Wouldn't that be performance standards?
Could be.
Kind of KPI.
Mhm.
I
Could
think
be.
that's similar to KPI, key performance index.
Okay. So somebody tell me which one you think.
B.
Yeah, let's
Okay.
go for B.
B as in boy?
Yeah.
Let's check it. Okay.
Ooh.
Organizational performance standards is the only stated guideline or tool for identify business analysis performance improvement tasks, which is the task in question. So,
Mhm.
That's a
As I
very
said,
long-winded way of asking a question.
it is. It is.
It is like
Because
not
Okay,
clear
let's talk
which
about.
task
I
it is
immediately
not clear even what task they are talking about. in
exactly
this one. Yeah.
it's mixing the business analysis performance aspect with improvement processes. So I sort of went with the former, you know, focusing on the performance of the business analysis work, in which case I
Right.
would have gone for A, whereas the question is really about performance improvement, which makes B correct.
Great. Okay, so we talked about the knowledge area has these tasks, and there's about 5 tasks per knowledge area. This is the reason that we have to really understand what each of those tasks are, what their inputs and outputs and purposes and players and everything. We have to understand them deeply. So when we get a question like this, that it doesn't say in this task, in this knowledge area, you know, it's going to say in this activity that you as a BA are going to be out in the real world doing, which one would you use? But it wants you to know which task and which knowledge area that you're actually talking about. Let's talk about the questions in the actual certification test. If you're taking the ECBA, it's going to be very similar to this. It's a very simple question with 4 answers. I think there's 50 of those questions. You've got an hour to do it. It's relatively simple. Then you move up to the CCBA. It gets a little more complicated with things like that are more obscure in this way. So you have to know which knowledge area, which task it's talking about, and pull that information into the question. The third one, the CBAP, the Certified Business Analyst Professional Certification, it's going to give you literally a paragraph. And it's going to say things like, Marcy was a new business analyst at the bank, and they're rolling out this implementation, and she's got 3 people coming in, and it's not going to really say this, but it's going to say things like, and they went out for coffee, and they were having a conversation. You know, it's going to give you all kinds of stuff that you don't need to know, but you got to wade through it to understand it. And then from that one paragraph, you're going to have maybe 5 questions that say, in this situation, what technique should Marcy use? In this situation, which of the knowledge areas is Marcy working in? You know, it's going to ask you questions about that paragraph. So it's a more complicated test, but that's why they're giving us questions like this whenever we're working through the practice, so that we can get to the place where we can go, oh, she's planning improvement processes. That means it's at the end, or at least in the middle of it. It's not planning the work itself. It's planning improvement after we've done some work and we have some experience. Okay? All right, let's move on. Many planning methods fit somewhere along the continuum between blank and blank approaches. Which of the following best completes the sentence above, the statement above? Predictive and value-driven approaches, event-driven and date-driven approaches, plan-driven and change-driven approaches, and predictive and adaptive approaches. Now, those of you who have studied the BABOK, especially chapter 3 and the very last chapter that talks about the difference between waterfall and agile and stuff, you know that some of these words are familiar. Can anybody tell me what we're talking about whenever we say plan-driven and change-driven?
I'm thinking you're talking agile and waterfall.
It is. Plan-driven is waterfall, change-driven is agile. When we were writing the BABOK, you know, way back then, they were not sure then if the word agile was going to be copyrighted, and they didn't want to use it. So they used change-driven instead. So we're talking plan-driven and change-driven and waterfall and agile. Many planning methods fit somewhere along the continuum, so very structured to very adaptive. Plan-driven and change-driven. Can I guess that C is our answer? Okay, let's try it.
I go with D.
Why not
Yeah,
D?
I'll go with D.
You wanna do D?
with D.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Tell me what D.
the BABOK mentions D. I haven't come across plan-driven and change-driven yet.
neither.
Predictive and adaptive?
So D.
Okay,
Yes.
let's try D. You were right. This is the waterfall and agile approaches words, predictive and adaptive. We've had a recent meeting that we talked about predictive. Waterfall was plan-driven, and okay, it's my fault from other outside sources. Thank y'all for correcting me. Okay, which of the following sets represent key concepts that are needed to understand how to effectively perform the plan, business analysis, governance task? Organization of business analysis information, change control process, plan prioritization approach, and plan for approvals, or decision-making, change control process, plan prioritization approach, level of abstraction, plan for approvals, or performance analysis, change control process, plan prioritization approach, plan for approvals, or D, decision-making, change control process, plan prioritization approach, and plan for approvals. So these are literally the key concepts that are linked to this task. It's the list in the BABOK, right? Are there any of these that you know is not right? So here's our task. You want to let's look it up?
I think D is right, the last one.
Think D is right. So you think decision-making, change control process, plan prioritization approach, and plan for approvals is the plan, business analysis, governance task? I want to commend you for being brave. Okay, let's try it. Oh, I got to select it. And you were correct. Look at you. Okay, this shows you how important it is to actually read those lists. I mean, you look at it, you go, okay, it's a bunch of words. It's important. If you want to get the answers right, you got to read it. Congratulations. In order to plan the most effective business analysis approach, the BA must take into consideration which of the following: available metadata. Okay, this is what we're trying to do. This is the task, right? Available metadata, information management tools, output for business analysis performance assessment, or the amount of time the BA has allocated to the initiative. Any of these not right?
A and B, I think, are not right because I haven't seen in BABOK using these terminology, metadata and information management tools.
I think information management tools is in
It is.
chapter 11. But I agree, available metadata, I'm not sure it's in there at all. So that puts us into probably C or D. You got to take in consideration how much time they have, right?
I will go with C.
Okay. Any other votes?
But it is a little bit tricky because it asks for the most effective,
Yeah.
which kind of
Right.
came to my mind about the time-based things, but I think C is correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's test
the
it.
output.
And you were right.
Yeah,
Here's what it
the
says.
outputs.
Business analysis performance assessment is a guideline and tool. The BA may need to replan their approach based upon findings from the BA performance assessment.
Mhm.
Very good. Awesome, guys. You are a business analyst on an initiative during which the analysis of business analysis performance has just been completed. Which of the following actions would you take depending upon the analysis results? Preventative, corrective, or leverage? Preventative, corrective, or improvement? Avoid, transfer, or mitigate, or transfer, mitigate, or accept?
I think B. Before
Yeah.
Paul would be
Yeah, I
correct.
think B.
D is in
Preventive,
dog?
correct.
Oh,
B
B
as
is in
boy.
boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
B-boy.
Okay, let's test it. That is correct.
Yep.
Some of these look like they're risk management,
Yeah.
not performance management, right? These are the three actions a BA can choose from. Very good. Define an approach for how business analysts data can be stored and accessed represents, I'm sorry, I'm starting that one over. Defining an approach for how business analysis data will be stored and accessed represents the purpose of which task. So the outcome, the goal of the task is for planned business analysis approach, planned business analysis governance, planned business analysis information management, and planned business analysis data management process. Are any of those not real?
It is not real, 100%.
Which one?
Last one.
This one is
Yeah.
not a task in
No,
chapter
it's not a
3.
task.
Okay, that leaves 3 for us to choose from. So which one is the right one?
C.
C.
Yeah. C.
Okay. I'm not sure plan business analysis governance is a task either. Is it?
No.
It's
No.
not a
Yeah.
task.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A also.
Okay. Business analysis information management is the one we've chosen, and it is correct. Very good. Y'all are cooking. Okay. Cheryl is a BA who is finding it difficult to determine how to effectively communicate and collaborate given the diversity of each stakeholder group. What task will Cheryl need to complete? She needs to complete perform stakeholder analysis, plan business analysis approach, plan stakeholder engagement, or conduct workshops to elicit stakeholder communication requirement. Which one, is there one of those that we don't even want to consider?
You
Plan
would want
business
to
analysis
consider all,
approach.
but
We do not want to consider this one?
Yeah.
Okay, so that one we're gonna mark out. What do we think is the correct answer?
C.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. See?
I think A.
Okay, we think A is the right answer. Do we have any other votes?
I think A too.
Okay,
I
we
think
got
it's
2 votes
C
for A. Let's
because
go.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's about communication, so engagement, communication.
It's engagement. The
The
output of this task,
the keyword there was the task rather than the elements.
yeah. The output of this task is the stakeholder engagement approach, which identifies collaboration and communication given the stakeholder analysis. Okay, so now we know. Yes? Did someone have a comment? Okay. For any change, BAs need to create and foster trusting working relationships with stakeholders. How can we best do that? We learn which stakeholders have negative attitudes toward the change. We understand the influence structures and channels among the stakeholders, identify levels of decision-making authority regarding the processes affected by the change, or use organizational modeling to understand the relationship stakeholders have with each other. Any of these that we can eliminate? There might not be. So which one do we think is the right answer and why?
It's very tricky one.
It is. How can we best create and foster trusting relationships?
We need to understand the influence that they have.
Yeah, so
And
A,
channel.
yeah, A.
I'm sorry, say that again.
No, I was just also saying that, like, yeah, it's quite tricky because also A, you also want to understand which of the stakeholders that actually have a negative attitude towards the change.
I agree
So
that we do need to have that information, but will that help us
I
create and
don't know
foster
if it
trusting working
actually,
relationships?
yeah. It's no, it's not necessarily. I'm just saying that it's something to consider, but
I go with
I
C.
am.
I was
Yeah,
going to
Margie,
say
go
we're
ahead.
sticking with the language of the BABOK, then I would go with D.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
remember
I'm
reading
actually,
about that, but
Mm.
if
I'm
we're
actually
left to
confused between
experience, then
B
my
and
answer would be
D.
something different. Sorry. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
Abigail, you are absolutely right. I am actually also confused between B and D, but if I
Mhm.
consider BABOK, B doesn't seem like BABOK language, and
D sounds a lot more like the BABOK, doesn't it? Okay,
Yeah,
let's check
yeah.
this answer.
Oh dear.
Oh, okay, so let's talk about why this one is incorrect. Organizational models are used to determine if organizational unit or personnel have any unique needs and interests that should be considered. However, they say understand the influence structures and channels among stakeholders is in the BABOK and
Okay.
help
Okay.
build stakeholder relationships and trust, as well as develop strategies for obtaining buy-in and collaboration.
So my
Okay.
question for you, Thea, is it
Yes.
seems we have to stick very closely with the language of the BABOK. For those that have successfully passed the CBAP, how many times did they on average read the CBAP, the BABOK cover to cover? I think that's the trick.
Well, it's true that you need to, and I would suggest that instead of trying to read cover to cover, you read one chapter at a time and master it, and
Yeah.
take the test questions and be sure you've got it mastered, and then go to the next chapter.
Okay.
Until you understand the different building blocks of it, it's hard to put it together. If you try to get it all at once, it's really hard. The
Yeah.
people that I've talked to that have started this from just the first time picking it up until taking the test, they say it takes them 6 months of study. But y'all have already started reading it. You're ahead of the game. And you actually, most of you have some experience as business analysts, so you can kind of relate your experience a little bit. But again, some of the stuff in the BABOK is not really quite how we do it in the real world. You just got to learn how the BABOK says to do it. So yeah, you gotta know the language, the voice of the BABOK. Okay,
It's almost
let's go
as
on.
though that's a great answer. It's almost as though I have to unlearn what my experience teaches me on a day-to-day basis and just be very theoretical and stick with the language of the BABOK. I
It's
found
true.
reading it, there are commonalities with some of the language in project management and product ownership. And
Yes.
it made me question, really, is this why we have such an identity crisis about what business analysts do and what they are? And do we actually
Oh.
need them in projects? So that's a discourse that's going on quite acutely in the UK. We seem to be suffering from an identity crisis.
Well, you brought up 3 different points there, so let me talk about that. Whenever you're studying and preparing to take the test for the BABOK, you kind of have to put yourself in an alternate reality. This is the reality the BABOK says is real, and this is how we have to answer the test, the questions to be able to pass the test. It is the same situation that people in PMI for project management have. They have to do the same thing. And many other certifications are very similar. You have to put yourself in the reality that the book presents to be able to pass the test. And then you get those letters after your name that says, you know what you're doing in the real world, which kind of sounds weird.
Yeah.
Yes, Gaba.
Yeah, just on that point, then, is there like another version of the BABOK that is being worked on to actually correct
Yes.
that? Because I mean, like for example, I would, for example, just consider A because I've had experience where you're trying to implement a change and you had like some stakeholders that were negative towards, so you want to first understand why they are negative towards the change and what you could do to overcome that so that you know whether the change is worth undertaking or not. So hence, like I'm just, yeah, I've started studying the BABOK, but I'm just saying in reality, some of the things,
I understand. Okay, so there's 2 things. We've been proposing that we correct and upgrade the BABOK for several years, and the current force at the IIBA is saying we need to get the BABOK translated into more languages so we can make it more of a global understanding, so we can all be speaking the same language. Even if it is a little bit different than reality, we actually have the verbiage to be able to communicate well. And so they're working on getting it translated. It's been recently translated, I think, into 9 different languages. And so we've got people in a vast portions of the world that are able to get on board and learn and participate. As far as getting it rewritten and updated, the challenge for that is once we get it translated, we've got to do the updates and then update all the tests at the same time and all of the education providers at the same time. So it's this huge domino effect. So I've asked and have been told that I'm going to get to be a managing author for the rewrite, and I'm looking for people that want to participate in that. I don't expect it to be probably for at least 3 years. So yes, we're working on it. I know it's going to be a bit, so that's why we're going ahead and working on the book that we have with the reality that we have. And there is a place in the IBA website that you can go and if there's incorrect things in here, things that are not presented properly, they have a place that you can go and say, this is not correct, and they do a review, and if they agree with you, they keep a list. So they're working on that on the side, but as far as rewriting it and making it more like reality, we haven't gotten to that point yet. Let's do one more question, and then we're going to check our answers, and realizing we've only done half of the questions in this 25 set, we'll see what our score is, and we can decide if we're going to do chapter 3 again next week and in 2 weeks, because of what, how good we're doing. We know that to pass the test under stressful conditions, we need to have at least a 70%. That's an assumption from experience from the people that have taken the test. So we're going to kind of measure against that. We feel like if we can get 80% now under stressful conditions, it'll probably be closer to 70, right? So let's see what that is. So let's do one more question. Which of the following is included within the business analysis approach? So here we are: workshops, methodologies and framework, the timing and sequence of business analysis work, and corrective and preventative actions.
It's sounding like methodologies.
No, I go
You
with
got that?
I'd
corrective
go
and
with C.
preventive action.
Okay, we've
last.
got B
That
and
was-
D being voted for.
I go with C.
Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
we
go
got B,
with
Oh,
C,
it's
and D being
included.
voted
Okay,
for.
okay.
Okay, I
It's
need another
included.
vote.
Sorry, it is included. I thought that's not included. So I go with B as boy.
B is in boy. Okay, B and D. I'm sorry,
I'll
B
go
and
with B
C.
as well. I
Okay,
think
we're
I'll
gonna
go with
check
B
this
as well.
answer. Okay, this is one of the primary components of the business analysis approach. James, you got it? Okay, so we're going to, let's see, check our answers. Got that. We're going to skip that and we go to, it's been a while since, oh, submit. Here it is. We're going to view our results. This is half of what we would have gotten if we did it all, if we were consistent. So we would have gotten 64 as a group with the answers that we got. I would like to vote that in 2 weeks, we go through chapter 3 again. I want us to do better. I want us to be able to approach our certification test knowing that we really have mastered this. Now, to do that, you have some options. You've got your book, study it, read it, learn the language. And if you feel like you don't really have chapter 3 down and you didn't really look at chapters 1 and 2, start with the very first page. Now, I want to show you one thing real quick. I may have said this last time. I apologize. I'm teaching this same thing to 3 different groups. This is the back of the title page. You've got some things here that are mentioned in brief in the book. I've seen the Zachman framework be asked about on the test. The Zachman framework is a very extensive process. It is a grid that's incredible, especially as you enter into a new organization. There is a paragraph, I mean, a little bitty paragraph in the BABOK about it. It's worth your time to spend 5 minutes on each of these and see what they really are. Archimate is for business architects. It's not mentioned in the BABOK at all, but it's here on the back of the title page. So I would suggest that you start right here and work your way through the BABOK, get through the end of chapter 3. Also, the links that Lalita is going to give you, you've got 4 hours, including this one. So that's 5 hours of practice test questions that you can go through. We recorded 4 hours with the Tampa Bay group. Please forgive any technical issues. Please forgive any misspellings or bumbling of words. We're human and we're doing the best we can. But you've got at least 25 test questions for each one of those 4 hours. Go through it and say which one you would choose, and then, listen to the conversation, because as you heard, the conversation of why this is right and why this is wrong is valuable. And if Yulia is in one of those things, she is a rock star. She will say, nope, that's not one of them. I mean, she is so fantastic at knowing this back and forth. In fact, when she took her CBAP certification, she got an exemplary score. We have no clue what that means. We just know it's better than most people get, right? So spend the time in the next 2 weeks to go through those hours, go through the BABOK, prepare for this next time. And I would like us to plan on making at least a score of 85. We're only going to be going through the test questions next time for chapter 3. That means we've got 1 hour to go through 25 test questions. Let's aim for at least 85. Y'all bring your A game. Let's do this together so that we can prepare and know that we're ready to take that certification test when it's time, okay? Okay. And don't forget, track your training. Grab that Excel, throw it on your desktop, and whenever you do something and you go, hey, I can put that on there, any training you do, any learning you do, wherever you get it from, if it can be put on there, you put it on there, okay? All right, guys. We are at the top of the hour. Any last words?
Thank you so much, Tia,
Okay.
for conducting this session with the Ireland chapter. It's very interesting to see people are joining in, and I'm actually getting a lot of responses on email for code, for CBAP preparation. It's good to see.
Good. And guys, please do note in the chat, how did you find out about this and where are you living? That helps us understand how to market better so we can reach more people. We're not charging money for this. This is not why we're doing it. We're doing this to help people, and the more people we can help, why not, right? Okay, I will talk to y'all next time. We'll see you in 2 weeks. I look forward to see your preparation, okay? Talk to you then. Bye.
Everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Thank
That
you.
was
Yeah.
great. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye, Tia.
Bye.